Hello. Oh, wow, that's kind of ominous with the shadow back there. What's up, Pie Wacket? You want me to keep playing fetch with you? Pie Wacket has decided she wants to play fetch, like right as I go to do the spooky, sleepy late stream. I can't hold the laptop up easy to show you Pie. She likes to play fetch with this thing specifically. It is a mouse. Presumably, she'd love to play fetch with a real mouse. We just don't have one. We are back to The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath by Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Thanks for being back, guys. Pardon me. Hopefully that'll be the last one of those coughs. I keep having coughing fits when I come in here because I smoke too much weed right before I come in. Gulp. Picking up right where we left off in the last stream. The next day he rose with the lava gatherers and exchanged farewells as they rode west, and he rode east on a zebra he had bought of them. Their older men gave him blessings and warnings, and told him he had better not climb too high on Engrenek, but while he thanked them heartily, he was in no wise dissuaded, for still did he feel that he must find the gods on unknown Kadath, and win from them a way to that haunting and marvelous city in the sunset. By noon, after a long uphill ride, he came upon some abandoned brick villages of the hill people who had once dwelt thus close to Engrenek and carved images from its smooth lava. Here they had dwelt till the days of the old tavern keeper's grandfather, but about that time they felt that presence was disliked. Their homes had crept even up the mountain slope, and the higher they built, the more people they would miss when the sun rose. At last they decided it would be better to leave altogether, since things were sometimes glimpsed in the darkness which no one could interpret favorably. So in the end all of them went down to the sea and dwelt in Baharna, inhabiting a very old quarter and teaching their sons the old art of image-making, which to this day they carry on. It was from these children of the exiled hill people that Carter had heard the best tales about Engrenek when searching through Baharna's ancient taverns. All this time the great gaunt side of Engrenek was looming up higher and higher as Carter approached it. There were sparse trees on the lower slope and feeble shrubs above them, and then the bare, hideous rock rose spectral into the sky to mix with frost and ice and eternal snow. Carter could see the rifts and ruggedness of that somber stone, and did not welcome the prospect of climbing it. In places there were solid streams of lava, and scoriac heaps that littered slopes and ledges. 90 eons ago, before even the gods had danced upon its pointed peak, that mountain had spoken with fire and roared with the voices of the inner thunders. Now it towered all silent and sinister, bearing on the hidden side that secret Titan image whereof rumor told. And there were caves in that mountain, which might be empty and alone with elder darkness, or might, if legend spoke truly, hold horrors of a form not to be surmised. The ground sloped upward to the foot of Engrenek, thinly covered with scrub oaks and ash trees, and strewn with bits of rock, lava, and ancient cinder. There were the charred embers of many camps, where the lava gatherers were wont to stop, and several rude altars which they had built either to propitiate the great ones or to ward off what they dreamed of in Engrenek's high passes and labyrinthine caves. At evening, Carter reached the farthermost pile of embers and camped for the night, tethering his zebra to a sapling and wrapping himself well in his blanket before going to sleep. And all through the night a Vunith howled distantly from the shore of some hidden pool. But Carter felt no fear of that amphibious terror, since he had been told with certainty that not one of them dares even approach the slopes of Engrenek. Vunith, that's Voonith. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen one either. In the clear sunshine of morning, Carter began the long ascent, taking his zebra as far as that useful beast could go, but tying it to a stunted ash tree when the floor of the thin road became too steep. Thereafter he scrambled up alone, first through the forest with its ruins of old villages and overgrown clearings, and then over the tough grass where anemic shrubs grew here and there. He regretted coming clear of the trees, since the slope was very precipitous and the whole thing rather dizzying. At length he began to discern all the countryside spread out beneath him whenever he looked around, the deserted huts of the image makers, the groves of resin trees and the camps of those who gathered from them, the woods where prismatic magas nest and sing, and even a hint very far away of the shores of Yath and of those forbidding ancient ruins whose name is forgotten. He found it best not to look around, and kept on climbing and climbing till the shrubs became very sparse, and there was often nothing but the tough grass to cling to. Then the soil became meager, with great patches of bare rock cropping out, and now and then the nest of a condor in a crevice. Finally, there was nothing at all but the bare rock, and had it not been very rough and weathered, he could scarcely have ascended farther. Knobs, ledges, and pinnacles, however, helped greatly, and it was cheering to see occasionally the sign of some lava-gatherer scratched clumsily in the friable stone, and know that wholesome human creatures had been there before him. After a certain height, the presence of man was further shown by handholds and footholds hewn where they were needed, and by little quarries and excavations where some choice vein or stream of lava had been found. In one place, a narrow ledge had been chopped artificially to an especially rich deposit far to the right of the main line of ascent. Once or twice Carter dared to look around, and was almost stunned by the spread of landscape below. All the island betwixt him and the coast lay open to his sight, with Baharna's stone terraces and the smoke of its chimneys mystical in the distance, and beyond that the illimitable southern sea with all its curious secrets. Thus far there had been much winding around the mountain, so that the farther and carven side was still hidden. Carter now saw a ledge running upward and to the left, which seemed to head the way he wished, and this course he took in the hope that it might prove continuous. After 10 minutes, he saw it was indeed no cul-de-sac, but that it led steeply on in an arc which would, unless suddenly interrupted or deflected, bring him after a few hours' climbing to that unknown southern slope overlooking the desolate crags and the accursed valley of lava. As new country came into view below him, he saw that it was bleaker and wilder than those seaward lands he had traversed. The mountain side, too, was somewhat different, being here pierced by curious cracks and caves not found on the straighter route he had left. Some of those were above him and some beneath him, all opening on sheerly perpendicular cliffs and wholly unreachable by the feet of man. The air was very cold now, but so hard was the climbing that he did not mind it. Only the increasing rarity bothered him, and he thought that perhaps it was this which had turned the heads of other travelers and excited those absurd tales of night gaunts whereby they explained the loss of such climbers as fell from these perilous paths. He was not much impressed by travelers' tales, but had a good curved scimitar in case of any trouble. All lesser thoughts were lost in the wish to see that carven face which might set him on the track of the gods atop unknown Kadath. Oops, sorry. At last, in the fearsome iciness of upper space, he came round fully to the hidden side of Engrenek and saw in infinite gulfs below him the lesser crags and sterile abysses of lava which marked the old wrath of the great ones. There was unfolded, too, a vast expanse of country to the south, but it was a desert land without fair fields or cottage chimneys and seemed to have no ending. No trace of the sea was visible on this side, for Oriab is a great island. Black caverns and odd crevices were still numerous on the sheer vertical cliffs, but none of them was accessible to a climber. There now loomed aloft a great beetling mass which hampered the upward view, and Carter was for a moment shaken with doubt lest it prove impassable. Poised in windy insecurity miles above earth, with only space and death on one side and only slippery walls of rock on the other, he knew for a moment the fear that makes men shun Ingrenek's hidden side. He could not turn round, yet the sun was already low. If there were no way aloft, the night would find him crouching there still, and the dawn would not find him at all. But there was a way, and he saw it in due season. Only a very expert dreamer could have used those imperceptible footholds, yet to Carter they were sufficient. Surmounting now the outward hanging rock, he found the slope above much easier than that below. since a great glacier's melting had left a generous space with loam and ledges. To the left, a precipice dropped straight from unknown heights to unknown depths, with a cave's dark mouth just out of reach above him. Elsewhere, however, the mountain slanted back strongly, and even gave him space to lean and rest. He felt from the chill he must be near the snow line, and looked up to see what glittering pinnacles might be shining in that late ruddy sunlight. Surely enough, there was the snow uncounted thousands of feet above, and below it a great beetling crag like that he had just climbed, hanging there forever in bold outline, black against the white of the frozen peak. And when he saw that crag, he gasped and cried out aloud and clutched at the jagged rock in awe, for the Titan bulge had not stayed as Earth's dawn had shaped it, but gleamed red and stupendous in the sunset with the carved and polished features of a god. Stern and terrible shone that face that the sunset lit with fire. How vast it was no mind can ever measure, but Carter knew at once that man could never have fashioned it. It was a god chiseled by the hands of the gods, and it looked down haughty and majestic upon the seeker. Rumor had said it was strange and not to be mistaken, and Carter saw that it was indeed so, for those long narrow eyes and long-lobed ears, and that thin nose and pointed chin, all spoke of a race that is not of men but of gods. He clung overawed in that lofty and perilous eyrie, even though it was this which he had expected and come to find. For there is in a god's face more of marvel than prediction can tell, and when that face is vaster than a great temple and seen looking down at sunset in the cryptic silences of that upper world from whose dark lava it was divinely hewn of old, the marvel is so strong that none may escape it. Here, too, was the added marvel of recognition, for although he had planned to search in all dreamland over for those whose likeness to this face might mark them as the gods' children, he now knew that he need not do so. Certainly, the great face carven on that mountain was of no strange sort, but the kin of such as he had seen often in the taverns of the seaport Celiphaeus, which lies in Uthnar-Gay, beyond the Tanarian hills, and is ruled over by that King Karanis whom Carter once knew in waking life. Every year, sailors with such a face came in dark ships from the north to trade their onyx for the carved jade and spun gold and little red singing birds of Celiphaeus, and it was clear that these could be no others than the half-gods he sought. Where they dwelt, there must the cold waste lie close, and within it, unknown Kadath and its onyx castle for the great ones. Okay, so he just had to trace the onyx trade. I'm just, if he knew it was an onyx castle and they're bringing the onyx in, I mean, all right, it's fine. He likes art. There's more than one way to. So to Celiphaeus he must go, far distant from the Isle of Oriab, and in such parts as would take him back to Dilathleen and up the Skye to the bridge by Nur, and again into the enchanted wood of the Zoogs, whence the way would bend northward through the garden lands by Ukranos to the gilded spires of Thran, where he might find a galleon bound over the Serenarian Sea. But dusk was now thick, and the great carven face looked down even sterner in shadow. Perched on that ledge, night found the seeker, and in the blackness he might neither go down nor go up, but only stand and cling and shiver in that narrow place till the day came, praying to keep awake lest sleep loose his hold and send him down the dizzy miles of air to the crags and sharp rocks of the accursed valley. The stars came out, but save for them there was only black nothingness in his eyes, nothingness leagued with death, against whose beckoning he might do no more than cling to the rocks and lean back away from an unseen brink. The last thing of earth that he saw in the gloaming was a condor soaring close to the westward precipice beside him, and darting screaming away when it came near the cave whose mouth yawned just out of reach. Suddenly, without a warning sound in the dark, Carter felt his curved scimitar drawn stealthily out of his belt by some unseen hand. Then he heard it clatter down over the rocks below, and between him and the Milky Way he thought he saw a very terrible outline of something noxiously thin and horned and tailed and bat-winged. Thanks, Marcus. Other things, too, had begun to blot out patches of the stars west of him, as if a flock of vague entities were flapping thickly and silently out of that inaccessible cave in the face of the precipice. Then a sort of cold, rubbery arm seized his neck, and something else seized his feet, and he was lifted inconsiderately up and swung about in space. Another minute, and then the stars were gone, and Carter knew that the night gods had got him. They bore him breathless into that cliffside cavern and through monstrous labyrinths beyond. When he struggled, as at first he did by instinct, they tickled him with deliberation. They made no sound at all themselves, and even their membranous wings were silent. They were frightfully cold and damp and slippery, and their paws needed one detestably. Soon they were plunging hideously downward through inconceivable abysses in a whirling, giddying, sickening rush of dank, tomb-like air, and Carter felt that they were shooting into the ultimate vortex of shrieking and demonic madness. He screamed again and again, but whenever he did so, the black paws tickled him with greater subtlety. Then he saw a sort of gray phosphorescence about, and guessed they were coming even to that inner world of subterranean horror of which dim legends tell, and which is lit only by the pale death fire wherewith reeks the ghoulish air and the primal mists of the pits at earth's core. At last, far below him, he saw the faint lines of gray and ominous pinnacles which he knew must be the fabled peaks of Thok. Awful and sinister they stand in the haunted dusk of sunless and eternal depths, higher than man may reckon, and guarding terrible valleys where the bulls crawl and burrow nastily. But Carter preferred to look at them than at his captors, which were indeed shocking and uncouth black beings with smooth, oily, whale-like surfaces, unpleasant horns that curved inward toward each other, bat wings whose beating made no sound, ugly, prehensile paws, and barbed tails that lashed needlessly and disquietingly. And worst of all, they never spoke or laughed. Is that really worst of all? And worst of all, they never spoke or laughed and never smiled because they had no faces at all to smile with, but only a suggestive blankness where a face ought to be. Okay, that's bad. All they ever did was clutch and fly and tickle. That was the way of night gods. As the band flew lower, the peaks of Thok rose gray and towering on all sides, and one saw clearly that nothing lived on that austere and impassive granite of the endless twilight. At still lower levels, the death fires in the air gave out, and one met only the primal blackness of the void, save aloft where the thin peaks stood out goblin-like. Soon the peaks were very far away, and nothing about but great rushing winds with the dankness of nethermost grottos in them. Then in the end the night gods landed on a floor of unseen things which felt like layers of bones, and left Carter all alone in that black valley. To bring him thither was the duty of the night gods that guard Engranek, and this done, they flapped away silently. When Carter tried to trace their flight, he found he could not, since even the peaks of Thok had faded out of sight. There was nothing anywhere but blackness and horror and silence and bones. Yes, Kitty? It's the litter. All right, I'm fine. I creeped myself out. Hi, Tropic of Neptune, not worried. Now Carter knew from a certain source that he was in the Vale of Kadath, where crawl and burrow the enormous bulls. But he did not know what to expect, because no one has ever seen a bull, or even guessed what such a thing may be like. Bulls are known only by dim rumor, from the rustling they make amongst mountains of bones and the slimy touch they have when they wriggle past one. They cannot be seen because they creep only in the dark. Carter did not wish to meet a bull, so listened intently for any sound in the unknown depths of bones about him. Even in this fearsome place, he had a plan and an objective. Wait, okay, I gotta stop. Are they saying that wherever you pile the bones up too deep, these creatures just sort of frequent? Like he knows it's a big pile of bones, so there might be bowls down there. Like he's like, I've been to Paris. This isn't my first rodeo. Now Carter knew from a certain source that he was in the Vale of Kadath, where crawl and burrow the enormous bulls, but he did not know what to expect because no one has ever seen a bull or even guessed what such a thing may be like. Bulls are known only by dim rumor, from the rustling they make amongst mountains of bones and the slimy touch they have when they wriggle past one. What in God's name are you doing, cat? What is that? Where are you? You don't need to be in there, Pyewacket. Yeah, just come back out of there. Why are you freaking me out, man? Don't look happy about it. She looks happy about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Pyewacket, our friend, fucking around. She isn't even finding out. She's just fucking around. Where was I? Even in this fearsome place, he had a plan and an objective. For whispers of Kadath and its approaches were not unknown to one with whom he had talked much in the old days. In brief, it seemed fairly likely that this was the spot into which all the ghouls of the waking world cast the refuse of their feastings, and that if he but had good luck, he might stumble upon that mighty crag taller even than Thock's Peaks, which marks the edge of their domain. Pyewacket just figured out that she can hop up on the little column to the right where all right, I do have to move the thing to show you. Pyewacket. Is this your new spot? She had not figured out before that she could hop up there. All right. Well done, Pyewacket. I don't know why you're fucking around so much, but everybody loves you, so I guess it's... Yeah, no, don't hop there. This has got to go back there. Melody. Yeah. She likes it when I read. Oh my God, the book's falling apart. Yeah, she's doing like a happy tail, and she's now hanging over, like looking sort of gargoyle-ish. Even in this fearsome place, he had a plan and an objective, for whispers of Kadath and its approaches were not unknown to one with whom he had talked much in the old days. In brief, it seemed fairly likely that this was the spot into which all the ghouls of the waking world cast the refuse of their feastings, and if he had but good luck, he might stumble upon that mighty crag taller even than Thock's Peaks, which marks the edge of their domain. Showers of bones would tell him where to look, and once found he could call to a ghoul to let down a ladder, for strange to say, he had a very singular link with these terrible creatures. A man he had known in Boston, a painter of strange pictures with a secret studio in an ancient and unhallowed alley near a graveyard, had actually made friends with the ghouls and had taught him to understand the simpler part of their disgusting meeping and glibbering. This man had vanished at last, and Carter was not sure but that he might find him now, and use for the first time in dreamland that faraway English of his dim waking life. Okay, wait. His interactions with all of these strange sort of peoples were not in English. Okay. I know he spoke cat. He did mention speaking cat. In any case, he felt he could persuade a ghoul to guide him out of Kadath, and it would be better to meet a ghoul, which one can see, than a bowl, which one cannot see. Yeah, you say that. So Carter walked in the dark and ran when he thought he heard something amongst the bones underfoot. Once he bumped into a stony slope and knew it must be the base of one of Thock's Peaks. Then at last he heard a monstrous rattling and clatter which reached far up in the air and became sure he had come nigh the crag of the ghouls. He was not sure he could be heard from this valley miles below, but realized that the inner world has strange laws. As he pondered, he was struck by a flying bone so heavy that it must have been a skull, and therefore, realizing his nearness to the fateful crag, he sent up as best he might that meeping cry which is the call of the ghoul. Sound traveled slowly, so that it was some time before he heard an answering glimmer. But it came at last, and before long he was told that a rope ladder would be lowered. The wait for this was very tense, since there was no telling what might not have been stirred up among those bones by his shouting. Indeed, it was not long before he actually did hear a vague rustling afar off. As this thoughtfully approached, he became more and more uncomfortable, for he did not wish to move away from the spot where the ladder would come. Finally, the tension grew almost unbearable, and he was about to flee in panic when the thud of something on the newly heaped bones nearby drew his notice from the other sound. It was the ladder, and after a minute of groping, he had it taut in his hands. But the other sound did not cease, and followed him even as he climbed. He had gone fully 5 feet from the ground when the rattling beneath waxed emphatic, and was a good 10 feet up when something swayed the ladder from below. At a height which must have been 15 or 20 feet, he felt his whole side brushed by a great slippery length which grew alternately convex and concave with wriggling. Okay, wait, that's so good. I'm going to back up to the top of the sentence. Hold on. At a height which must have been 15 or 20 feet, he felt his whole side brushed by a great slippery length which grew alternately convex and concave with wriggling. And thereafter he climbed desperately to escape the unendurable nuzzling of that loathsome and overfed bowl whose form no man might see. For hours, it's just a tentacle. Yeah, it's all tentacle. What do you mean it's got a bunch of tentacles? Nope. Nope, it's a tentacle. One big tentacle. For hours he climbed with aching arms and blistered hands, seeing again the gray death fire and Thok's uncomfortable pinnacles. At last he discerned above him the projecting edge of the great crag of the ghouls, whose vertical side he could not glimpse, and hours later he saw a curious face peering over it as a gargoyle peers over a parapet of Notre Dame. This almost made him lose his hold through faintness, but a moment later he was himself again, for his vanished friend, Richard Pickman, had once introduced him to a ghoul, and he knew well their canine faces and slumping forms and unmentionable idiosyncrasies. So he had himself well under control when that hideous thing pulled him out of the dizzy emptiness over the edge of the crag, and did not scream at the partly consumed refuse heaped at one side, or at the squatting circles of ghouls who gnawed and watched curiously. He was now on a dim-litten plain, whose sole topographical features were great boulders in the entrances of burrows. I gotta point out, he keeps doing this thing where the levels up and down are weird. Like, first they're miles and miles and miles up. It's so far up that he has to wait for the sound to come back. But then they drop a rope ladder. But once he gets up there, it's the ground. Like, Lovecraft loves this thing where up there it's the ground, or down there, again, it's the ground. Like, anyway, it's really weird. Like, okay, you're on the surface now? So what was that down there? It really is like levels up and levels down in a video game. It's also genuinely nightmarish. He was now on a dim-litten plain whose sole topographical features were great boulders and the entrances of burrows. The ghouls were, in general, respectful, even if one did attempt to pinch him, while several others eyed his leanness speculatively. Through patient gibbering, he made inquiries regarding his vanished friend. No, not gibbering, glibbering. Sorry, it's a made-up word. Through patient glibbering, he made inquiries regarding his vanished friend, and found he had become a ghoul of some prominence in abysses nearer the waking world. A greenish, elderly ghoul offered to conduct him to Pickman's present habitation, so despite a natural loathing, he followed the creature into a capacious burrow and crawled after him for hours in the blackness of rank mold. They emerged on a dim plain strewn with singular relics of earth, old gravestones, broken urns, and grotesque fragments of monuments, and Carter realized with some emotion that he was probably nearer the waking world than at any other time since he had gone down the 700 steps from the cavern of flame to the gate of deeper slumber. There, on a tombstone of 1768 stolen from the Granary Burying Ground in Boston, sat the ghoul which was once the artist Richard Upton Pickman. It was naked and rubbery, and had acquired so much of the ghoulish physiognomy that its origin of humanity was already obscure. But it still remembered a little English, and was able to converse with Carter in grunts and monosyllables, helped out now and then by the glibbering of ghouls. Dude, don't make him speak English, you glibber. All right. When it learned that Carter wished to get to the Enchanted Wood and from there to the city Celophaeus and Uthnarge beyond the Tenarian hills, it seemed rather doubtful, for these ghouls of the waking world do no business in the graveyards of Upper Dreamland, leaving that to the web-footed wamps that are spawned in dead cities, and many things intervene betwixt their gulf and the Enchanted Wood, including the terrible kingdom of the Gugs. Okay, that sentence was put together to distract me with the Gugs at the end. But what are the web-footed womps? Wasn't there a web-footed thing in the part I read last night? Right, because he thought it was night gods. And they were like, no, it's not night gods. And when he asked what has, like, am I confused? You know what? I'll just keep reading. It's fine. They were three, like, they were web-footed, and this story makes me feel much higher than I actually am. Also, every time I read this, I think, like, what possessed him to write this? Like, it's great, but I don't know who he thought this was for. Like, I'm happy. They should get Danny Elfman to write a musical of this for that guy who made Nightmare Before Christmas to do like a stop motion animated movie of it. This would be good for that. Somebody should tell him to do that. I know Richard Elfman slightly. Yeah, you know what? I shouldn't just tell them to do that. Somebody should tell them, not me. They'll be like, why are you just trying to fuck us up with your ideas, man? You can't just say your idea for a movie to a famous person, because if they already wanted to make a movie that was anything like your idea, it will then look like they stole it. So you can't just walk up to somebody and be like, here's my idea for a movie, blah, blah, blah. Like you've fucked them up. So don't do that. Where was I? The Gugs, right. The Gugs, hairy and gigantic, once reared stone circles in that wood and made strange sacrifices to the other gods and the crawling chaos Nyarlathotep, until one night an abomination of theirs reached the ears of Earth's gods and they were banished to caverns below. Only a great trapdoor of stone with an iron ring connects to the abyss of the earth ghouls from the enchanted wood, and this the Gugs are afraid to open because of a curse. That a mortal dreamer could traverse their cavern realm and leave by that door is inconceivable, for mortal dreamers were their former food, and they have legends of the toothsomeness of such dreamers, even though banishment has restricted their diet to the ghasts, those repulsive beings which die in the light and which live in the vaults of Zin and leap on long hind legs like kangaroos. So the ghoul that was Pickman advised Carter either to leave the abyss at Sarkomand, that deserted city in the valley below Leng where black nitrous stairways guarded by winged diorite lions lead down from Dreamland to the lower gulfs, or to return through a churchyard to the waking world and begin the quest anew down the 70 steps of light slumber to the cavern of flame and the 700 steps to the gate of deeper slumber and the enchanted wood. It's so video game. There were no video games when he wrote this. This, however, did not suit the seeker, for he knew nothing of the way from Leng to Uthnarge, and was likewise reluctant to awake lest he forget all he had so far gained in this dream. In fact, does anyone in the chat know, has there been a game based on this? Because you could do that. Like, anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. This, however, did not suit the seeker, for he knew nothing of the way from Leng to Uthnarge, and was likewise reluctant to awake, lest he forget all he had so far gained in this dream. Okay, wait. This whole time has been one dream. All this sleeping, and then like he went for like 2 weeks to the moon. This is like the thing with like it's 10 miles up and there's a rope ladder. Like, wait a minute. You're still dreaming? The first dream? I love this story so much. I don't know. The only reason I think this isn't more famous is because the core horror nerds who like Lovecraft the most would just, this isn't, they would be like, what the fuck is this? For the most part. I mean, they are. I've talked to them. They're like, yeah, I don't really get that one. Where was I? Right. The ghasts, those repulsive beings which die in the light and which live in the vaults of Zin and leap on long hind like kangaroos. So the ghoul that was Pickman advised Carter either to leave the abyss. Oh, right. No, I read that part. After much persuasion. Oh, wait. Okay. Hold on. I got it. The 700 steps to the gate of deeper slumber in the enchanted wood. This, however, did not suit the seeker. He didn't want to forget everything, right? It were disaster to his quest to forget the august and celestial faces of those seamen from the north who traded onyx in Celephaeus, and who, being the sons of gods, must point the way to the cold waste in Kadath where the great ones dwell. He's got to get to the save point is the city. After much persuasion, the ghoul consented to guide his guest inside the great wall of the Gug's kingdom. There was one chance that Carter might be able to steal through that twilight realm of circular stone towers at an hour when the giants would be all gorged and snoring indoors, and reach the central tower with the sign of Koth upon it, which has the stairs leading up to that stone trap door in the enchanted wood. Okay, wait. They're under the enchanted wood? They're trying to get up to the door with the ring in it. Okay, wait. That was in the other part too. I remember the door with the ring in it. Oh my god. I love this story. Okay, where was I? Right. There has been at least 20 games based on. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of. So, Call of Cthulhu is the Chaosium role playing game series of adventures and tie ins that, like, I've never gotten to play it. I'm interested enough that I would actually buy the gear and run a game in here if I had any live people at all interested in doing it. I suppose I wouldn't. It's a role playing game. So, you guys could be the players and I could be the game master. But I don't know about this specific story. Like I said, it has all these references to the Cthulhu horror stories. His main work, he had already right, this is after Call of Cthulhu in the collection that's in order. But it's just references. Like it's not like Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos in this is not. I mean, it's weird. It's almost like this story is part of the deep mythology within the other stories, like that horrible book, the Necronomicon, and the other one, the Nicotic manuscripts, and the maybe this is one of those books. Yeah, and there's a comic book series. There was a comic book series based on this in the 90s or the end of the 90s that I thought was great, that I read, that was like an underground and it was in black and white. But there's a more recent one that Dark Horse published. Like I Googled this to grab an image to make a thumbnail from, and then I saw a bunch of those comic books and I was like, oh, I don't want to steal that art because it's recent. Like I don't care whether it's copyrighted, I'll steal it if the guy's dead. Like that's sort of how I feel about it. Like I'm not gonna fuss about paying somebody's dad. I don't know. Seems like a limiting factor to me. Anyway, where was I? Right. He doesn't want to wake up and forget everything. Right. And he's the stone door. Right. In the Enchanted Wood, they got to climb up to it, right? Pickman even consented to lend 3 ghouls to help with a tombstone lever. Wait. Pickman even consented to lend 3 ghouls to help with a tombstone lever in raising the stone door, for of ghouls the Gugs are somewhat afraid, and they often flee from their own colossal graveyard when they see feasting there. Okay. A tombstone lever, like that's a specific, like the ghouls have a specific piece of equipment that they use to lever from inside tombs. Yeah, you know. It's like a Slim Jim. He also advised Carter to discuss, and I'm actually going to interrupt one more time here. Lovecraft gets no credit for having a sense of humor because he's super nerdy and weirdly autistic and deadpan, but he clearly knows this stuff is funny. Like he isn't humorless. It only seems humorless if you don't read it out loud. If you read Lovecraft out loud, you see he's got a rich, entrenched sense of humor, but most of it is often based on this. I'm a very nerdy deadpan kind of guy. Like you, that's like you're like, wait, are you fucking with me? A lot with Lovecraft. He also advised Carter to disguise as a ghoul himself, shaving the beard he had allowed to grow, for ghouls have none. I guess you can't shave when you're asleep. Is that what he's saying? The beard he had allowed to grow. Like since he's been asleep, he hadn't been shaven, and it's been weeks in the dream. So that is, I love this story. He also advised Carter to disguise as a ghoul himself, shaving the beard he had allowed to grow, for ghouls have none, wallowing naked in the mold to get the correct surface, and loping in the usual slumping way, with his clothing carried in a bundle as if it were a choice morsel from a tomb. He's going to be naked to disguise himself. That's pretty good. How am I going to disguise myself? First, take off all your clothes. Sure. Yes. And then rub shit all over yourself. Are you sure? Yeah, man. You'll pass for one of my people. No problem. Just lots of mud, mold, smell. Leave your dick out. You got this. They would reach the city of the Gugs, which is coterminous with the whole kingdom, through the proper burrows, emerging in a cemetery not far from the stair-containing Tower of Kadath. Coterminous with the whole kingdom is another thing that's like a video game. Like once you get to that location, then you can get to the other locations. They must beware, however, of a large cave near the cemetery, for this is the mouth of the vaults of Zin, and the vindictive ghasts are always on watch there murderously for those denizens of the upper abyss who hunt and prey on them. Ghasts try to come out when the Gugs sleep, and they attack ghouls as readily as Gugs, for they cannot discriminate. They are very primitive and eat one another. Why is he so obsessed with cannibalism? I mean, I guess I am too. You know what? Why would I ask? We all love cannibalism. I mean, I'm hungry. Just thinking about it, really. I mean, there's a lot of things in this story make me hungry, I guess. Really. You know, it's late and I'm stoned. Where was I? Right. I'm going to back up a couple of sentences because that was so good. They must beware, however, of a large cave near the cemetery, for this is the mouth of the vaults of Zin, and the vindictive ghasts are always on watch there murderously for those denizens of the upper abyss who hunt and prey on them. The ghasts try to come out when the Gugs sleep, and they attack ghouls as readily as Gugs, for they cannot discriminate. They are very primitive and eat one another. The Gugs have a sentry at a narrow place in the vaults of Zin, but he is often drowsy and is sometimes surprised by a party of ghasts. Though ghasts cannot live in real light, they can endure the gray twilight of the abyss for hours. They are very primitive and eat one another. Okay. So at length, Carter crawled through endless burrows with 3 helpful ghouls bearing the slate gravestone of Colonel Nehemiah Derby, obit 1719, from the Charter Street burying ground in Salem. What? Okay. When they came again into open twilight, they were in a forest of vast lichened monoliths reaching nearly as high as the eye could see and forming the modest gravestones of the Gugs. On the right of the hole out of which they wriggled, and seen through aisles of monoliths, was a stupendous vista of cyclopean round towers mounting up illimitable into the gray air of inner earth. This was the great city of the Gugs, whose doorways are 30 feet high. Ghouls come here often, for a hurried Gug will feed a community for almost a year. Oh, for a buried Gug, not hurried Gug. Sorry. Ghouls come here often, for a buried Gug will feed a community for almost a year, and even with the added peril, it is better to burrow for Gugs than to bother with the graves of men. Carter now understood the occasional Titan bones he had felt him in the Vale of Kadath. Okay, why has this story led me to a place where I'm thinking, like, I might eat a dead person, but Gugs do not sound edible to me. They do not sound like something I would want to eat. I don't even know what they're like yet, except that they're big. Has he said what they're like yet? He hasn't. They just, are they the ones who are primitive and eat each other? No, that's ghasts. Ghasts eat Gugs. I guess they're ghastly, because that sounds rough. I don't even know what the Gugs are, but the ghasts eat them and each other. I guess they are indeed ghastly, yes. I didn't know I would laugh so much tonight. I really didn't. I have had this experience with this story before, though. Like, I once read some of this out loud on acid to a girlfriend who kept accusing me of just making it up. Like, she was sure I was just wandering off the script and just making stuff up, and she kept taking the book from me to check. Giving me way too much credit, actually. Okay, where was I? Straight ahead, and just outside the cemetery, rose a sheer perpendicular cliff at whose base an immense and forbidding cavern yawned. This the ghouls told Carter to avoid as much as possible, since it was the entrance to the unhallowed vaults of Zin where Gugs hunt ghasts in the darkness. Where Gugs hunt ghasts in the darkness. So wait, did I get that? Did I get that wrong? Okay, hold on. The ghasts try to come out when the Gugs sleep, and they attack ghouls as readily as Gugs, for they cannot discriminate. They are very primitive and eat one another. The ghasts eat the Gugs. And then down here he says, where was I? This the ghouls told Carter to avoid as much as possible, since it was the entrance to the unhallowed vaults of Zin where Gugs hunt ghasts in the darkness. Dude doesn't even know what he's talking about, man. Which one's the predator here? This is fucked up. Howard, man, I might be high, but you can't fool me that easy. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. And so I can tell you this wouldn't work that way. They don't just hunt each other. They're not like people. Oh, maybe that is the idea, that they hunt each other, actually. I don't know. It seems like that should be straight, actually. I feel like I'm just really high, and one of you is going to be like, you're confused. It's right. Hey, some dude. How are you? I guess I'm going kind of long. Where did I want to stop? I scoped out a stopping place. I feel like I've read a lot longer than I usually do. But you still haven't reached the spot where I thought I was going to stop. Okay. The fuck? I looked at what's weird too is that the part that I read part of, so I like scoped out what I thought would be about 30 minutes of reading. And it was like it was a bit where he was like on the road and in camp with the ghouls. And I like read a couple sentences and I was like, okay, I got it. That's where I'm gonna stop. We never I feel like we never got to the part that I like pre-read. Like there was some other book where 10 pages like I've gone into an alternate timeline within the story. I honestly like that shouldn't I'm gonna lose this place and it's gonna disappear and I'm gonna lose my mind. Have I gone 6 pages past? No, no way. That's fucked up. I asked earlier, but do you think the silent films of the Weimar Republic allowed Hollywood horror films to be so good? Yeah, there are a lot of the same people making them, actually. Yeah. But the German movies being hits, all being horror movies and fantasy science fiction led the world, yeah. And the human monster stuff that Lon Chaney was doing sort of chased the German movies. Hold on a second. I'm gonna maybe I should go ahead and stop here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna back up to the top of the paragraph that made me laugh next time I come in here and read. Because I don't want to I feel like the reading stream should be, I don't know if bite-sized is the right word. I don't know. I've been reading for almost an hour though. I don't want to read till I get tired. Though. I don't know. This is really fun. You know what? All right. I'm going to go take a leak. I'll be right back. I'm going to read some more of this. I don't want to put it down. It's one of the things that other old people just absolutely don't understand about this space is like, yeah, what do you do when you got to take a leak? Like you just you take a leak. They just hang out for a minute. Like what do they do while you go take a leak? Like they just hang out for a minute. If you're slick and swift, you got something playing for them or something. Do you ever eat? Everyone but me eats. I avoid eating, but everyone else eats. Really? Like yeah. Oh my god, I lost my place. We'll never be able to find our place in. Oh, here it is. Okay. I rarely comment when you're reading. Cool. Yeah, I try not to I don't know. I'm paying more attention to when I let chat interrupt me in here. Like if people like keep trying to bait me into I don't know, it depends on the it's a little bit like when I'm playing guitar actually. Like I'll sort of ignore chat for 5 or 10 minutes while I read. Cuz yeah, I don't but by the same token like I want there to be live interactive chat while I read, especially if it has to do with what I'm reading. Sometimes Lovecraft is real like I want to annotate on the fly and discuss. This particular story is like, yes, I do want to smoke some more weed. This particular story making me want to run long because it's getting super weird and making me laugh a lot. Like it's like I said, this story's done that to me before. And I don't know. I would like to. Oh, I'm gonna have to tape that down. I would like to. This, by the way, was this hardback is a like a public domain based collection by Chartwell Books. They're like the ones who make the books that are on the front table for cheap at like Barnes and Noble. That's what this is. But it's everything he ever wrote in the order he wrote it. S.T. Joshi is the editor who's the world expert on H.P. Lovecraft. And I know people who know him. I could get an interview with him easy. The horror people don't like him much. Like They can't bait him into being part of their weird sort of social scene. Like he doesn't like going to conventions and stuff. But he's the world's expert on pulp fiction of this type from this era, and he's way the world's expert on Lovecraft. Um, and I would love to interview him on the stream once I get stuff up and running, so I can do interviews. I'll bring him in here to talk about stuff. Um, he's like one of the very few people in the world who's read more of this kind of weird fiction from this era than I have, uh, and a true genius with a genius touch for editing. I don't know what he has to say about how psychedelic this is. And there's a few other stories where I think Lovecraft, it's like his research on occult stuff. I think he knew what psychedelic drugs were, like he'd read about mescaline. I think maybe Clark Ashton Smith was into mescaline or peyote, but I don't know. Joshi would know. He, in his private correspondence, Lovecraft would have, I don't know. I think if he'd talked about it, I like people would have said. But on the other hand, I don't know who reads all the biographical stuff Joshi writes about Lovecraft. Um, if meth taught me anything, it's that food is poison. Yeah, I know. Was the line from Cutter's Way with Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Bridges is like the normal guy, I think, and his crazy friend is, oh my god, who plays him? But like they come in with groceries, and the guy's like, "What do you got there?" He's like, "Groceries, food," and he's like, "Oh yeah, food. I remember food. It's what they had before beer." Yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more of this. Yeah, I don't know what possessed Lovecraft to write this. It's super psychedelic. There's only a few literary precursors at all. Like, there's some Arthur Machen stories. There's a couple of specific short stories by Arthur Machen that are very strange in a similar way. And there's Lord Dunsany, some of Lord Dunsany's fantasy fiction from the turn of the century, and Lovecraft was a big Dunsany fan, but even like Christ, Rogan, show some decorum. There's young people in here. Can't just be yorfing it up. Did I ever see Guns N' Roses in LA in the 90s or Skid Row? No, I did not. Straight ahead, and just outside the cemetery, rose a sheer perpendicular cliff at whose base an immense and forbidding cavern yawned. This the ghouls told Carter to avoid as much as possible, since it was the entrance to the unhallowed vaults of Zin where Gugs hunt ghasts in the darkness. And truly, that warning was soon well justified, for the moment a ghoul began to creep toward the towers to see if the hour of the Gugs' resting had been rightly timed, there glowed in the gloom of that great cavern's mouth first one pair of yellowish red eyes, and then another, implying that the Gugs were 1 century less, and that ghasts have indeed an excellent sharpness of smell. Has he intentionally made it so I can't keep track of which of these weird things is eating which? And I still don't know what either of them looks like. He did that on purpose, right? He just did that on purpose. All right, he did. I'm supposed to catch that he reversed them, right? And one of them's indiscriminate. They eat each other. Like he did all that on purpose. I'm not just high. I'm smart. All right. So the ghoul returned to the burrow and motioned his companions to be silent. Yeah, it's like there's 3 kinds of man-eating monsters, and ghouls are real gross. Like they're zombie people who eat people, but the other 2 are both worse. That's the main thing here. Like I don't know what either of them looks like, but like they'll both eat you or each other, maybe. Definitely one of them will eat the other one. And they'll both eat you. I got it. Casts, gugs. I would have been obsessed with this story had I discovered it when I was like 8. This is why I joked about the Nightmare Before Christmas guys making a movie of it. Like, Okay. Where was I? So the ghoul returned to the burrow and motioned to his companions to be silent. It was best to leave the ghasts to their own devices, and there was a possibility that they might soon withdraw, since they must naturally be rather tired after coping with a gug sentry in the black vaults. After a moment, something about the size of a small horse hopped out into the gray twilight, and Carter turned sick at the aspect of that scabrous and unwholesome beast, whose face is so curiously human, despite the absence of a nose, a forehead, and other important particulars. Okay, so no, he did describe the faceless things, right? I'm just high. Ghasts, right. Ghasts are faceless. I remember now. I feel so stupid. Presently, 3 other ghasts hopped out to join their fellow, and the ghoul glibbered softly at Carter that their absence of battle scars was a bad sign. It proved that they had not fought the Gug sentry at all, but merely slipped past him as he slept, so that their strength and savagery were still unimpaired and would remain so till they had found and disposed of a victim. It was very unpleasant to see those filthy and disproportioned animals, which soon numbered about 15, grubbing about and making their kangaroo leaps in the gray twilight where Titan towers and monoliths arose. But it was still more unpleasant when they spoke among themselves in the coughing gutturals of ghasts. And yet, horrible as they were not so horrible as what presently came out of the cave after them with disconcerting suddenness. It was a paw fully 2.5 feet across and equipped with formidable talons. After it came another paw, and after that a great black-furred arm to which both of the paws were attached by short forearms. Then 2 pink eyes shone, and the head of the awakened Gug sentry, large as a barrel, wobbled into view. The eyes jutted 2 inches from each side, shaded by bony protuberances overgrown with coarse hairs. But the head was chiefly terrible because of the mouth. That mouth had great yellow fangs and ran from the top to the bottom of the head, opening vertically instead of horizontally. Yeah, that's freaky, man. Oh, yeah, it's very freaky. I'm scared. I'm so scared I'm gonna have to smoke some more weed. That's fucked up, dude. Sideways. Yo. But before that unfortunate Gug could emerge from the cave and rise to his full 20 feet, the vindictive ghasts were upon him. Carter feared for a moment that he would give an alarm and arouse all his kin, till a ghoul softly glibbered that Gugs have no voice, but talk by means of facial expression. Really? I guess you'd have to be another Gug. I'm not sure how you read the facial expression of the mouth. I mean, all right. You should turn your, all right. The battle which then ensued was truly a frightful one. From all sides, the venomous ghasts rushed feverishly at the creeping Gug, nipping and tearing with their muzzles, and mauling murderously with their hard-pointed hooves. All the time they coughed excitedly, screaming when the great vertical mouth of the Gug would occasionally bite into one of their number, so that the noise of the combat would surely have aroused the sleeping city had not the weakening of the sentry begun to transfer the action farther and farther within the cavern. As it was, the tumult soon receded altogether from sight in the blackness, with only occasional evil echoes to mark its continuance. I guess he's thinking of wolves bringing down a bear, is what it sounds like, but... Then the most alert of the ghouls gave the signal for all to advance, and Carter followed the loping 3 out of the forest of monoliths and into the dark, noisome streets of that awful city whose rounded towers of cyclopean stone soared up beyond the sight. What's up, Zoe? You gonna hop over here? Zoe hadn't been well. She's been very scabby, and I gave her sort of a sponge bath earlier, and it's almost all gone. And I'm not letting her out of this room because whatever she got into that was making her break out was, I think, downstairs. Are you purring? Oh, that's a good sign. She's really not been well. I think this is a sign for me to end this stream. Though I was having fun reading about the combat of the gags and the gugs and the gas, the gags and the gusts. You know what? Those are actual real words. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but she was real scabby on the sides of her, where the fur is thin in front of her ears. It was itching like crazy, and she was digging at it. Like, see, she wants me to scratch it. But I finally, like, part of my line of defense was I just gave her a sponge bath where it was really bad here and here and here. And almost all of it just cleared right up. Like maybe it was flea bites or some kind of reaction to the flea bites, and she just needed it cleaned off. I love you, Zoe. I'm glad you're better, buddy. Her skin is still all broken out, though. You can feel it here. Whatever it is, it's just something in the house. Like I can't. My roommates won't clean this place, so like I can't clean the whole place. I'm doing other stuff anyway. If like I'm trying to leave, like literally tomorrow, so I told Anna I would be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Pizza Hut, but she won't beat me if I leave town. She can't reach me. Yes, is that itchy? Poor kitty. It's really scabby, and I don't know what it is. I thought the fleas were setting it off. Yeah, the whole rest of the house is just so gross. Like the next line of defense with the cat is, well, she's getting into something or eating something that's she's having a reaction to. So control the environment. Like this house is so gross. I'm just gonna have to keep her locked in the bedroom. But Pie Wacket follows. Like her sister Pie is smart enough to follow that. Like Zoe has to stay in here. It's weird. Like Pie is like twice as smart as Zoe here, which supports the Zoe ate something she shouldn't have downstairs theory because I mean I don't want to have to say where Zoe can hear me how stupid Zoe is, so I won't. Okay. It's been fun, you guys. I'm glad you guys are here. Yeah, this is a long story. There's no way to get anywhere near finishing it, and it's going to be at least 3 or 4 more streams. It's basically a short novel. So um, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm gonna hang out with Zoe. I don't know if you can hear her purring. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. You might actually be able to see it from there. Some of the scabs there are like in a line right down there and behind your ear. And yeah, I thought it was fleas, but the fleas are just gone. Like the fleas are utterly controlled. And whatever it is, it's the same thing that got the cat downstairs. So this could turn into a weird vet emergency like any minute. So like I'm going to set up the car to leave town tomorrow, but I'm also going to set up a vet for her, even if it's 20 miles away, and just be poised to pay for like a crazy expensive Uber or cab or something. Yeah, it's all scabs on the back of her ear, like I'm rubbing where it itches so that she won't scratch it. I've been trying to make her stop digging at it. Poor kitty. But it's clearly this house. Like as soon as we move, it'll clear up. I don't even have to like whatever it is, like just anywhere else at all. It's not. This place is gross. My skin's breaking out too, actually, just not like as bad as hers. Probably not caused by the same thing. Yes, Zoe is pretty. They think you're pretty, Zoe. Zoe and her sister Pie are stars. But yeah, you can see she's not as cheerful as she usually is. She looks worried. Usually she only looks worried if she thinks I'm mad at her. She's feeling much better than she did yesterday. She didn't purr at all. Maybe she did just stick her head in something. It is mostly here and here. Like she has acted like her whole body's itching more than normal. She's not acting that much like it. All right, Zoe. We're lucky Chuck did not eat it. Yeah, well, I mean, she's breaking out, so I don't know what they got going on downstairs that they're too stupid to keep the cats out of. I don't know. I haven't seen ants for a while. I think they went into hibernation. They did poison the hornets out front. I don't think this would be. It doesn't seem like the breaking out you would get if she got sprayed with bug poison, but maybe. I don't know. She's not throwing up or anything like that. In any case, I'm going to keep her in this bedroom. Like, I'm just going to keep the door shut and only Pi can come and go because Pi doesn't have it. Poor kitty. But yeah, I'm going to get her to a vet as soon as I get to Mississippi. If this gets any worse than where it is right now, I'm going to drop everything and go to the nearest vet in, like, yeah, either a rental car or. I mean, I could take her to a vet in a Lyft or an Uber, but by all accounts, the closest vet where I'll be able to get an appointment at all is 20, 30 miles away. So everyone I talk to says their vet is 20 miles away, 40 miles away. Nobody sees a vet here. And the first two vets that the first two vets that the internet told me in Lima, neither of them will accept. This is very, very uncouth, Zoe, with the legs here. They're not accepting new patients at all. Like, not even like, how about 6 months out? They're just not accepting new patients at all. So, like, maybe the third most popular and best reviewed vet in Lima? Sure. But it's crazy that the first two are just booked solid for even like 6 months out. That's just crazy. Like, we aren't even accepting new patients at all at this time because that's how booked solid we are. That is just like, it's weird because people keep talking about food deserts because of SNAP being in the news a lot. And it's like, it's not just like you just have to have a car to function out here. There are so many things that require a car. I can't go to the pet store and just buy a bunch of shit to see if it makes her less scabby and itchy because the pet store is an hour and a half walk away. Like, it's just really. It's really weird that nobody offers me a ride anywhere, too. I mention this to anyone I talk to in Lima. I explain that I don't have a ride anywhere, and so I have to walk everywhere. And people don't even think to offer me rides because they're so used to everyone having cars, and then they don't offer me a ride. Like, I lay it all out. Card, 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 card. You do follow, right? Like, I've done everything but ask you to drive me around like a chauffeur because that would be rude. Like, I mean, I don't expect any specific person to give me rides places, but once you've mentioned it to 20 people, somebody should be like, I don't have any free time really, but sometime when you need a ride somewhere, or I'll call you when I'm going to Walmart. I'll come around and you can go to Walmart with me. It's unreal. Like, in Massachusetts or Mississippi or, yeah, California's a little bit like this. In Los Angeles, my experience with those people was like, they didn't know how to be supportive in a community way at all. All right. So he's being very cute, but I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for being here, guys. You guys are awesome. Did I see your video you posted of the kitty litter box ventilations? No. It could be extreme stress or malnutrition. No, well, she was getting bit up by the fleas some, and she was getting scabby from it. And now that the scabby and the itchy is getting worse, it's very like what got the cat downstairs, which I wasn't there when Chuck took it to the vet. They told him it had leukemia and put it to sleep. So whatever was wrong with it, they decided Chuck was just too much of a retard to take care of it. Probably put it to sleep, but let me put it this way. They decided it wasn't worth telling Chuck that he had neglected the cat till they had to put it to sleep because he's retarded, because what they saw was a sad, pathetic old man who's dumb and really cared about the cat. They didn't see that he and his brother sat up all night torturing that damn cat by not letting me take it to a vet. So they had taken that cat to a vet once before because I insisted, the one downstairs that died. So they already had a relationship with a vet. When I was trying to make an appointment with the vet, they didn't, I couldn't get through to the vet that they had a relationship with. Like, literally, they didn't have their phones turned on. I don't know how Chuck and John actually got hold of them, Maybe Chuck just got in a cab and went over there, and they put the cat to sleep, and they told him it had feline leukemia, which, like, dude, if that's the case, you would have had to tell me I needed to get these cats immunized against it immediately, Pi and Zoe, when you took it last year. But it's just their dodge. They didn't want to have to tell Chuck he'd killed the cat through neglect and let the sad old man have to live with that. So they said it was feline leukemia. If anyone doesn't know, feline leukemia is basically like if it's a stray cat, there's about a 50-60% chance it has feline leukemia, and it just means that they're going to have a fever and waste away and fall over dead at some random time, kind of young. There's a couple of different feline AIDS is like that too. It's just a fever, and they'll just stop eating and waste away, sort of peacefully. It's gruesome and sad, but they just stop eating. It's like a fever. Like cats I've had that had it, like they'll just stop eating for a week or two, and if you can nurse them through the spell of like succumbing to it, it's like malaria or something. Like it'll go away again, but eventually it gets them. These guys haven't gotten to a vet yet, so I don't know if they have feline leukemia, Pi and Zoe. It won't affect their quality of life really if they do. Yeah, we're living in 1984. Could be malnutrition. Some dude I changed their food today. Also, they clearly have worms. I didn't realize that until yesterday. So yeah, like I said, as soon as I get to Mississippi, they're going to a vet. But if I have to suddenly drop everything and spend, like, it's going to be like $300 or $400 to do the vet stuff here, and that's before I get to the logistics of finding a vet and getting like a ride to one. I don't know if Lyft fusses about cats. Probably not. Probably depends on the driver. I love you, Zoe. I'm glad you're feeling better, buddy. Okay, I'm gonna let the stream die, guys. Thank you for coming in tonight. I'll see you in the next one.